She replaced her cousin at the wedding photography booth. Unaware the single dad CEO falls for her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The ballroom glowed beneath a canopy of soft golden lights. Laughter drifted through the air, blending with the quiet music of a string quartet. It was one of those weddings where every flower looked hand-painted and every guest shimmered in designer clothes. Behind the floral arch, near the photography booth, a young woman adjusted her camera strap nervously. Her name was Mia Carter. She was not supposed to be there. Her cousin Lily had called that morning, voice hoarse from the flu. "Can you cover for me, just for one evening? It is an easy gig. Just smile, click, and hand out the instant prints." Mia had hesitated, glancing at her worn jeans and scuffed sneakers. But the rent was due, and her mother's medicine was running low. So she borrowed Lily's black dress, pinned her hair up, and told herself she could survive a few hours pretending to belong in a world she could never afford. The first guests arrived, elegant and glowing. Mia stood straighter, forcing a professional smile. Through her lens, she caught fragments of joy, hands clasped, champagne raised, a veil fluttering like a white wing. Then, through the viewfinder, she noticed a man standing slightly apart from the crowd. Tall, dark suit perfectly tailored, his expression unreadable. Beside him, a little girl in a peach-colored dress clutched a cupcake and frowned at the frosting now splattered across his vest. Without thinking, Mia hurried over, handing the child a napkin. "It happens," she said softly, wiping the spot with gentle strokes. "See? Good as new." The man looked at her, surprised, as if unaccustomed to anyone speaking to him with such ease. His eyes were a deep shade of gray, tired but kind. "Thank you," he said. "You just saved the day." Mia smiled, lifting her camera. "Then let us make it official. A hero deserves a picture." She crouched beside the little girl. "Ready? Say cupcake." The child giggled, and the flash went off, freezing the moment his faint smile. Her tiny laugh, the warmth between them. When the image printed, Mia handed it to the man. "A memory for you." He studied the photograph for a long second, then looked back at her. "You have a good eye," he said. "You caught something real." Mia's cheeks flushed. "I just try to see people as they are." He nodded once, slipping the photo into his pocket. "That is rarer than you think." Before she could ask his name, someone called him toward the main hall. He turned, placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder, and walked away into the golden light. Mia exhaled, unaware she had been holding her breath. For a brief moment, she forgot the aching shoes, the borrowed dress, and the bills waiting at home. The world felt softer, like the glow inside her camera, when the flash recharged hope flickering back to life. She looked down at the last instant print left on the counter. In the picture, the man and his daughter smiled together, and she had caught the reflection of herself in the glass behind them. 3 faces, 1 accidental frame. She did not know his name. She did not know that he was Ethan Cole, a single father and the CEO of a major company. All she knew was that something about that picture felt like the beginning of a story she would never forget. The next morning, sunlight filtered weakly through the thin curtains of Mia's small apartment. The hum of the city seeped in from the street below horns, footsteps, and the distant whir of a passing bus. She sat on the edge of her narrow bed, still in her worn t-shirt, her camera resting beside her like a sleeping friend. The memory of last night flickered in her mind, the golden lights, the laughter, the photo of that man and his little girl. For a few short hours, she had stepped into a world that did not belong to her. But now, the world around her felt real again. Her alarm clock blinked 6:30 in red numbers. The rent was due in 5 days. Her mother's prescriptions had to be refilled by tomorrow. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her banking app. $36 left. Enough for groceries maybe, but not for everything else. In the kitchen, her mother coughed softly from the next room. "Mia, did you get home late last night?" Mia forced a smile even though her mother could not see it. It was fine, Mom. Just a wedding job. She opened the fridge. Inside was half a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and one apple. I am going to the diner after class today. I will bring dinner home. Her mother's voice was gentle but tired. You work too hard, sweetheart. I have to, Mia murmured. After a quick shower, she dressed in her uniform, a faded blue waitress dress, white apron, and sneakers that had lost their spring years ago. On her way out, she paused by the small table near the door where her father's old camera sat, a heavy film model from the 1980s. Edges chipped but still loyal. She ran her fingers over the lens cap, whispering, "One day, Dad, I will make this my real job." Then she tucked it carefully into her bag, along with the single instant photo she had kept from the wedding. At the diner, the morning rush had already begun. The smell of frying bacon filled the air. Mia balanced 2 plates of pancakes on one arm while refilling a customer's coffee with the other. Her manager, Paula, called out from behind the counter. Table 9 needs their check, and the delivery guy says we are out of napkins again. Mia nodded, moving quickly from one table to another. She smiled through the exhaustion. Some customers tipped, others barely looked at her. By noon, her feet ached, her back throbbed, and her mind drifted again to that picture in her bag. The man's steady gaze, the little girl's laughter, it felt like proof that small moments still mattered. During her break, she slipped outside, sitting on the metal steps behind the diner. The air smelled faintly of rain. She pulled out the photo and stared at it under the gray light. Her cousin Lily had texted her that morning. The client loved the pictures. "Thanks again, Mia. You saved me." Mia smiled, typing back, "Glad it worked out." She hesitated before adding, "Do you know who that man was? The one with the little girl?" Lily replied a minute later, "Not sure. He was a guest of the groom, I think. Big deal in business, maybe." "A big deal." Mia laughed softly. Whoever he was, he had seemed more human than any businessman she had ever met. There had been something in his eyes, tired, protective, lonely. She could not explain why she kept thinking about him. Her break ended. Back inside, she wiped down tables and stacked menus for the evening crowd. A family sat near the window, parents smiling as their daughter dipped fries into ketchup. Mia caught herself staring. The father noticed and smiled kindly, breaking her trance. She smiled back, embarrassed, and turned away. When her shift finally ended after sunset, she rode the bus home, her camera bag on her lap. The city outside blurred by, streaks of neon and rain on glass. Her reflection stared back at her from the window, tired eyes, hopeful heart. She whispered to herself, "Keep going." At home, she brewed tea for her mother and sorted through her small collection of photos. Most were of strangers, candid shots taken at bus stops, in parks, at crosswalks, people caught in ordinary beauty. She slid the wedding photo among them. For the first time in a long while, she felt that her pictures meant something. Before turning off the lamp, she picked up her sketchbook and wrote 3 words on the first page. "See the truth." She did not know that those same words would soon appear again, this time printed beneath her photo in a corporate magazine, credited to the CEO she had unknowingly met at the wedding. But tonight, she only knew the quiet comfort of her dream and the whisper of her father's old camera, waiting patiently for its chance to change her life. The week passed in a quiet rhythm of work, study, and exhaustion. Mia moved through her days like a camera on slow exposure, capturing moments, barely seen herself. But on Friday evening, something unexpected appeared in her inbox. The subject line read, "Photography Inquiry." Her heart skipped as she clicked it open. "Hello, Mia. My name is Grace Nguyen. I manage community relations for Cole Enterprises. We recently came across several candid photos from a wedding last week that carried your watermark. Our CEO was deeply impressed by your ability to capture authentic emotion. He would like to discuss a potential collaboration for our upcoming charity campaign. Please let us know if you are available for a meeting next Tuesday. Best regards, Grace." Mia read the message 3 times. Cole Enterprises, CEO, collaboration. It had to be a mistake. She glanced around her small apartment, the paint peeling from the corners, her mother asleep in the next room. No one from a corporation like that would ever email her. Still, her pulse raced. She typed back slowly. Thank you for reaching out. I am available on Tuesday. Please let me know the location. The reply came within minutes. 10 o'clock in the morning, Cole Enterprises headquarters, 45th Avenue. She whispered to herself, 45th Avenue, tasting the address like it might disappear if she said it too loudly. On Tuesday morning, Mia stood at the base of a glass tower that rose into the sky like a sheet of silver. She clutched her camera bag, wearing the one blazer she owned, borrowed years ago, for a college presentation. Inside, the lobby gleamed with marble and quiet confidence. A receptionist greeted her with a polite smile. "Good morning. You must be Miss Carter. Please take the elevator to the 22nd floor. They are expecting you." The elevator doors opened into a sunlit conference room. Large prints of cityscapes lined the walls. A woman in her 40s, stylish and composed, extended a hand. "You must be Mia. I am Grace. Thank you for coming on short notice." "Thank you for inviting me," Mia said, her voice careful. Grace smiled. "Our CEO noticed your work from the wedding photos. He said, and I quote, 'Whoever took that shot understands people.' He is hoping to collaborate on a charity photo campaign for underprivileged children. If you are interested, I can walk you through the details." Mia's breath caught. "Your CEO saw my photo?" "Yes," Grace said, glancing toward the frosted glass door behind her. "He should be joining us shortly." The handle turned, and the door opened. The man who stepped in wore a charcoal suit, his presence commanding, yet calm. He looked familiar, too familiar. For a moment, Mia could not place him. Then her heart thudded in realization. It was him, the man from the wedding, the one with the little girl and the cupcake stain. Ethan Cole paused, his expression softening with recognition. "Miss Carter," he said, his tone warmer than she expected. "It is good to see you again." Mia blinked, caught between disbelief and awkward surprise. You were the man with the cupcake," he finished with a faint smile. "Guilty." Grace looked between them, amused but professional. "I see you two have met." Ethan gestured toward the chair across from him. "Please, sit. I owe you for saving my daughter from a frosting disaster." Mia laughed nervously, settling into the seat. "I am glad to help." He leaned forward slightly. "You have an eye for truth, Miss Carter. That photograph you took of us, it was simple, real. I want that honesty for our campaign. No glossy filters, no posed smiles. Just people." "Oh." His words struck her deeply. "That is how I see photography," she said softly. "It should show what people feel, not just what they wear." For the next half hour, they discussed concepts and locations. Ethan listened more than he spoke, nodding thoughtfully at her ideas. Grace took notes while occasionally exchanging knowing looks with her boss. When the meeting ended, Ethan stood and offered his hand again. "We will start next week, if that works for you. Our team will handle logistics, but I hope you will keep your creative freedom." "That is the whole point." Mia shook his hand, her fingers trembling slightly. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Cole." He smiled. "Please, call me Ethan, and thank you for saying yes." As Mia stepped back into the elevator, her reflection shimmered on the mirrored wall. Her pulse was still fast, but not from fear. She felt something new, stirring a small, fierce sense of possibility. Outside, the city stretched before her, loud and alive. She walked down 45th Avenue, clutching her camera bag tighter, whispering to herself, "Do not wake up yet, Mia. Let this be real." She did not see Ethan watching from the window above, the photograph she had taken still pinned on the board behind his desk, the words beneath it written in his neat handwriting, "See the truth." The following week unfolded, like a dream that Mia was afraid to wake from. Each morning, she arrived at Cole Enterprises with her camera bag slung over her shoulder, her heart steady but nervous. The charity campaign focused on stories of everyday families, single parents, teachers, veterans rebuilding their lives. Ethan wanted authenticity, and he trusted Mia to capture it. On the first day of shooting, they visited a small community center on the east side of the city. The walls were covered in children's paintings, bright splashes of color that seemed to hum with life. Mia crouched low to photograph a young boy painting a paper sun, while Ethan spoke quietly with the director of the center. He did not act like a CEO giving orders. He listened, asked questions, and laughed when the children offered him cookies they had baked themselves. When their eyes met across the room, Mia felt something warm unfold in her chest. He was not just a businessman in a tailored suit. He was a father, a man carrying quiet weight, and for reasons she could not name, she wanted to know that story. They worked side by side for hours. Ethan carried equipment when she needed help, holding a light stand steady as she framed each shot. "You are very precise," he said once, watching her adjust the focus. Mia smiled faintly. "My father taught me that. He said a picture is a promise, you only take it when you are ready to keep it." Allah. Ethan studied her, thoughtful. That sounds like something worth believing in. When the day ended, they sat on the steps outside the center, sharing coffee from a paper cup. The evening light softened the edges of the buildings. "Thank you for today," Ethan said. "You brought out something I have not seen in a long time. Hope." Mia looked down at her hands, unsure what to say. "Maybe you just needed someone to show you where to look." Oh. A few days later, they met again for the second shoot at a park overlooking the river. Ethan's daughter, Sophie, joined them, running ahead to feed pigeons. She was shy at first, but quickly took a liking to Mia. By the end of the afternoon, Sophie was holding Mia's hand and asking if she could help take pictures. Ethan watched them, a rare smile lighting his face. "She has not done that since her mother passed," he said quietly. Mia's heart tightened. "She is a wonderful girl." "Oh, she is," he agreed softly. "And she thinks you are wonderful too." For a long moment, neither spoke. The river moved slowly under the late afternoon sun. And in that silence, something shifted, subtle, real, undeniable. As the sun dipped low, Mia packed her gear while Sophie tugged at her sleeve. "Can we take one last picture, Daddy and me?" Mia nodded. She lifted the camera, framing father and daughter in the golden light. "Smile," she said gently, "not for the camera, for each other." "Hope?" The shutter clicked. Ethan looked up at her, and their eyes met once more. There was no need for words. Something unspoken was growing between them, as quiet and steady as the evening sky. That night, as Mia developed the photos in her small apartment, she paused at the last frame, the picture of Ethan and Sophie bathed in light. She ran her thumb along the glossy edge, whispering to herself, "A picture is a promise." She did not know how deeply that promise was already taking root. Over the next several weeks, Mia and Ethan continued working together, traveling across the city to capture stories for the campaign. With every project, the distance between them seemed to shrink. Ethan was still careful, reserved, but his tone softened whenever he spoke to her. He started asking about her life, where she had learned photography, what inspired her work, what her favorite place in the city was. Mia answered cautiously at first, unsure how much to share. "My father used to take me to the old botanical garden," she said one afternoon as they packed up after a shoot. "He said every picture should start with light. When he passed away, I stopped taking photos for a while. It felt wrong without him." Ethan listened quietly, his gaze steady. "He would be proud that you did not give up." She smiled faintly. "I almost did." He looked away toward the skyline. "So did I." The words hung there, simple but heavy. Later that week, Ethan invited Mia to his company's rooftop garden to review the photos. The evening sky was brushed with pink and gold, and the air smelled faintly of rain. Sophie was there too, drawing with colored chalk on the pavement. "Look, Mia," she called. "I drew you and Daddy." Mia laughed, kneeling beside her. "That is beautiful, Sophie." Ethan leaned against the railing, watching them with quiet admiration. "She talks about you all the time," he said softly. "You make her laugh." "She is easy to love," Mia replied. He smiled, the expression gentle and tired. It has been a long time since anyone said that. For a few seconds, silence filled the space between them, comfortable, fragile, real. The wind lifted a strand of Mia's hair, and Ethan's hand moved instinctively before he caught himself and let it fall. She noticed but said nothing. They spent the next hour going through the photos on her laptop. Each image told a story: a teacher hugging her students, a father repairing his son's bicycle, a woman planting flowers in a neglected lot. Ethan studied them as if seeing the world for the first time. "You have a gift," he said finally. "You make ordinary moments look extraordinary." Mia shook her head. "They already are extraordinary. People just forget to notice." Ethan looked at her then, truly looked, and something inside him shifted. For years, His life had been filled with contracts, meetings, and deadlines. But sitting beside Mia, he felt something he had almost forgotten: peace. When the review ended, Sophie ran up to Mia, slipping a small folded paper into her hand. "You can keep it," the girl said shyly. Mia unfolded it and smiled. It was a drawing of 3 stick figures holding hands beneath a bright yellow sundae. Across the top, in a child's handwriting, were the words, "My family." Her throat tightened. She looked up to find Ethan watching her. For a moment their eyes met, and neither could look away. That night, as Mia walked home beneath the city lights, she carried the drawing carefully in her bag. The edges were already wrinkled, but it felt like treasure. She knew she was falling for him, even though she also knew she should not. And far above, in his office lit by one dim lamp, Ethan stared at the same photo that had started it all, the one from the wedding. He traced the reflection of Mia's face in the glass and whispered to himself, "Do not let this be another promise I fail to keep." The night of the charity gala arrived, a celebration of the campaign Mia and Ethan had built together. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and polished glass, the same kind of grand space where Mia had once stood pretending to belong. Tonight, she was not a server or a stand-in. She was the photographer whose work had touched an entire company. She moved quietly between guests, her camera clicking softly as laughter filled the air. Across the room, Ethan stood in a black tuxedo, greeting donors and board members. He looked every inch the powerful CEO, but when his eyes found hers across the crowd, his expression changed, gentler, real. He gave a small nod, and Mia's heart lifted. Grace, the communications manager, approached her with a proud smile. "Your photographs are the highlight of the evening. Look, everyone is talking about them." Mia turned toward the large projection screen behind the stage. Her images appeared one by one: families, children, laughter, moments of light captured in shadow. Applause rippled through the hall. She felt warmth rise in her chest, a quiet, disbelieving joy. Then the host's voice came through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest of honor, the visionary behind this campaign, Mr. Ethan Cole." Mia froze. Guest of honor. The title echoed through the room as Ethan stepped onto the stage. He began to speak, his tone humble yet confident. "When we started this campaign, we wanted to remind the world that kindness still exists. But I must thank the person who showed me that truth again, our photographer, Miss Mia Carter." The audience turned toward her, applause filling the space. Mia felt her cheeks flush as Ethan gestured toward her, smiling. For a moment, everything felt right. But then, something else happened. A woman near the front, sleek, elegant, holding a tablet, raised her voice. "Mr. Cole, there are rumors that your photographer is not who she claims to be. Some say she used her cousin's company name to get this job. Care to comment?" A low murmur spread across the room. Cameras turned. Mia's pulse thundered in her ears. She took a step back, words tangled in her throat. Grace's face paled. Ethan's jaw tightened. "That is not true," Mia managed to say, but her voice trembled. My cousin was sick. I just helped her for one night." The woman's tone sharpened. "So you admit you deceived the company to get access to Mr. Cole?" "No," Mia said, shaking her head, her hands trembling. "I never meant to deceive anyone." Ethan stepped forward, his voice firm. "Enough. Miss Carter was hired because of her work, not her name. This conversation ends here." The crowd fell silent, but the damage had been done. Whispers lingered like smoke. Mia's throat burned with shame. She lowered her camera and slipped out of the ballroom before anyone could stop her. Outside, the night air hit cold against her skin. She stood on the marble steps, the sound of laughter fading behind her. She looked down at her hands, steady once, now shaking, and whispered, "I should have known better." Back inside, Ethan stood at the edge of the stage, scanning the room for her. Grace touched his arm. She left. He nodded once, his expression unreadable. "Then I will find her." Ah. In that moment, neither of them knew that the photograph projected on the final slide, the one showing Ethan, Sophie, and Mia's reflection in the glass, was still glowing behind him, framed in gold light. It was the picture that had started everything, and now it stood as proof of how truth could both unite and undo. Mia walked through the city that night with her camera bag pressed tightly against her chest. The streets shimmered from a thin drizzle, each light reflecting like scattered pieces of glass. Her shoes soaked through, but she hardly noticed. Inside her, everything felt heavy anger, embarrassment, and a hollow ache that pressed against her ribs. She had spent weeks building something honest, only to watch it collapse in a single moment of public doubt. When she reached her apartment, her mother was asleep, a small lamp glowing beside her bed. Mia slipped into her room quietly and sank to the floor, pulling her knees close. On the small table, Sophie's drawing of my family still sat where she had left it. The paper had begun to curl at the corners. She stared at it until her eyes blurred, then whispered, "I do not belong in their world." The next morning, headlines spread across social media. Mystery photographer exposed for false identity. Some articles questioned whether the charity campaign itself had been a publicity stunt. Mia turned off her phone and deleted her accounts. She wanted to disappear. Across town, Ethan sat in his office, the same photograph from the wedding lying on his desk. Grace entered quietly. Public relations is handling the press, but they are pushing for a statement. They want to distance the company from her. Ethan's jaw tightened. She did nothing wrong. "I know," Grace said gently, "but perception matters." He looked out the window, his reflection merging with the skyline. "Then I will fix it myself." Later that day, Ethan tried calling Mia, but her number went straight to voicemail. He sent a message instead. "Please meet me. I want to explain." There was no reply. That evening, Mia sat in the same diner where she worked part-time. Paula, the manager, slid a cup of coffee toward her. "I saw the news," she said softly. "You okay?" Mia nodded faintly. "Just tired." "Do not let them make you small," Paula said. "You have talent. People will forget the gossip." Mia smiled weakly, but her chest ached. She reached into her bag and pulled out her father's old camera. The metal felt cool against her hands. "He used to tell me that truth always finds its way through the lens," she murmured. "I am starting to doubt that." Paula tilted her head. "Maybe you are just looking through the wrong angle." That night, back home, Mia sat at her small desk. She opened her laptop, scrolling through the digital folder of her photographs, each one full of people whose faces glowed with hope. Slowly, her expression softened. These moments were real. What she had captured could not be undone by rumors. But when she reached the last picture, the one from the gala of Ethan and Sophie smiling on stage, her throat tightened. She could almost hear Sophie's laughter, see Ethan's eyes searching for her. She closed the laptop and whispered, "Some promises are not meant to last." Across the city, Ethan stood on the same rooftop where they had once shared coffee. The night wind tugged at his tie. He looked down at the dark streets below and said quietly, "Mia, I should have protected you." For the first time in years, the man who controlled everything felt powerless. The truth that had once brought them together now stood between them, sharp as glass. And yet, beneath the weight of silence, a single thought remained in both their hearts. This cannot be how the story ends. 3 days passed before Mia saw the news again. She had avoided every headline, but this one caught her eye on the television in the diner. A press conference banner read, "Cole Enterprises addresses scandal." The image showed Ethan standing at a podium, microphones crowding around him. His voice was calm but firm. "There has been misunderstanding regarding Miss Mia Carter," he said. "She did not deceive anyone. She stepped in for her cousin during an emergency and produced work that became the heart of this campaign. Her photographs represent honesty, compassion, and the everyday truth this company stands for. I take full responsibility for allowing false assumptions to harm her name. From today forward, all profits from this charity project will be donated under her authorship." Mia froze, her coffee untouched. The diner fell quiet as the television continued. Ethan looked straight into the cameras, his eyes steady. "I believed in her work before I knew her story. I still do. Sometimes the most powerful truths come from people brave enough to be real." The reporter asked, "Are you confirming personal involvement with her?" Ethan paused for a long moment. Then he said, "I am confirming that she reminded me what it means to be human." The room erupted with questions, but he had already stepped away from the podium. Mia's throat burned with emotion. Paula nudged her gently. "Looks like someone decided to fight for you." That evening, Mia walked through the park where she had once photographed Ethan and Sophie. The air was cool, the trees turning gold with early autumn. As she crossed the bridge, a familiar voice called her name. She turned. Ethan stood a few feet away, no suit this time, just a simple gray sweater and tired eyes. "I hoped you would come here," he said. Mia hesitated, unsure what to feel. "Why did you do that? You did not have to defend me." "I did," he said quietly. "Because it was my fault you were hurt. I should have stopped it sooner." She shook her head. "You do not owe me anything, Ethan." He took a step closer. "I owe you the truth. You showed me more about integrity than a lifetime in boardrooms ever did. You made me see what matters." For a long moment, they stood in silence, the sound of leaves brushing the pavement around them. Mia's eyes softened. "You risked your reputation for me. Why?" Ethan's answer came gently. "Because you were never the mistake. Losing you was." Tears welled in her eyes, the weight of the past weeks dissolving. "I do not know if I can step back into that world," she whispered. "Then do not," he said. "Step forward into yours. I will meet you there." A faint laugh escaped her lips, half disbelief, half relief. She looked at him through the golden light. "You always know what to say, do you not?" He smiled, just barely. "Only when I mean it." They stood there as the last rays of sunlight brushed against the water. The tension between them finally broke, replaced by something quiet and forgiving. When Mia finally spoke, her voice trembled with warmth. "Maybe a picture really is a promise." Ethan nodded. "Then let us keep this one." The camera around her neck clicked once, capturing their silhouettes against the glowing bridge, a new photograph, born not of misunderstanding but of truth. Spring returned to the city, soft and full of light. The charity campaign had ended months ago, but its spirit lingered in galleries, community centers, and small framed photographs hanging in cafes. A picture carried Maya's name now. Her story had traveled farther than she ever imagined, not as gossip but as proof that truth and kindness could survive even the harshest storms. One morning, she stood in front of the new exhibit at the downtown art hall. The banner above read, "The Way She Sees the World, a photography collection by Mia Carter." People moved slowly through the space, whispering in admiration. Children laughed at pictures of smiling faces. Couples pointed to the frame that showed a man lifting his daughter into sunlight. Mia stood quietly, her hands clasped together. Behind her, a familiar voice said, "You kept your promise." She turned to see Ethan standing a few steps away, dressed simply, his eyes reflecting the soft light that poured through the tall glass windows. Beside him, Sophie held a small bouquet of daisies. The little girl ran forward. "Miss Mia, we brought you flowers." "Oh?" Mia knelt down, accepting them with a laugh. "Thank you, sweetheart. These are beautiful." Ethan smiled, his tone gentle. "She insisted we come today. She said this was important." Mia looked up at him, her voice quiet. "I was not sure you would." "I promised I would meet you where you are," he said. "This seemed like the right place." They walked together through the exhibit, stopping in front of one photograph that showed the three of them, Ethan, Sophie, and Mia's faint reflection in the glass behind them. It was the picture from the wedding, now enlarged and framed at the center of the room. Beneath it, in small letters, read the words, "Best mistake we ever made." Mia smiled through the sting in her eyes. "You changed the caption." Ethan nodded. "Because it was never a mistake, just fate wearing the wrong name for a while." Sophie tugged at his hand. "Daddy, can we take a picture with Miss Mia again?" Ethan looked at her, and then at Mia. "Only if she agrees." Mia lifted her camera, the same one that had once belonged to her father. This time, all of us together. They stood in front of the old photograph as Mia set the timer and hurried to join them. Ethan's arm brushed hers, steady and warm. Sophie giggled, leaning against them both. The shutter clicked, capturing a new moment, a family, imperfect but real. Later, as the guests began to leave, Ethan turned to her. "So, what comes next for you?" Mia looked around at the walls filled with stories. "More truth," she said, "more light. Maybe a few happy endings." He smiled. "Then let me help you write one of them." Outside, the city shimmered beneath the early spring Sunday. The three of them stepped onto the sidewalk together, laughter blending with the hum of traffic and distant bells. Mia lifted her face to the sky, feeling the warmth on her skin. For the first time in a long while, everything felt whole, no masks, no misunderstandings, only the quiet certainty that love had found them in the unlikeliest of ways. And somewhere inside her camera, a new photograph waited, one that would remind her forever that even the smallest mistakes can lead to the truest beginnings.